Hey y'all, how you doing? Welcome to my channel. If you've never been here before, this is not normally what I post on here. This is a tarot channel where I read tarot, all right? But if you do follow me, you know that I am still a licensed attorney. I've been a licensed attorney for well over a decade. My background is in criminal justice and forensic behavioral sciences. Part of the reason why I am so, blessed with my tarot gifts is because I have a very vast understanding of human psychology. All right. I felt very compelled to have a discussion tonight about generational trauma and how this plays out and why we need to be the ones to stop it. All right. I'm talking specifically tonight about a case that is hitting literally close to home for me. There was a 20-month-year-old boy that disappeared, all right, from his grandparents / mother's house. I'm going to get into the backstory for you in a minute. Anyways, I have a 2-year-old, all right, so this baby even looks a little bit like my baby, all right. I immediately happened 10 minutes from my house, all right, first of all, so it's literally close to home here in Savannah. And the baby is the same age as my son. He's a beautiful little baby. The second I heard the story, I immediately knew that the baby was dead. I knew it, all right? I posted it in the Facebook group that they need to be searching the dump. They need to be looking in the garbage. I have a very strong feeling what happened that night, and I do think it happened the night before, all right? I'm gonna get into that after I give you the timeline, all right? And I need to have this discussion, though. It's very important that we have this discussion because this is going to keep happening. We are going to keep seeing babies die for no reason. We are going to continue to see generations of children grow up to be not productive adults, to be dependent on drugs, to be dependent on devil energy. Pluto has been in Capricorn for a while, since 2008, all right? That transit, Pluto energy in the chart amplifies everything. When it's in a sign, it tends to distort that sign and give you the, best or worst of that energy. Pluto energy is Scorpio energy, death card energy, 8th house energy, scary energy, all right? Controlling energy, toxic energy. And it's sitting in the sign of Capricorn, and it has been for, a hot minute, like I said, since 2008. When, mind you, that's when we had the big market crash and everything started going to shit there, all right? That energy, though, has brought about all of these mass shootings. It's brought about the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's brought about mass conflict in Israel and Palestine and the Middle East. It's brought about uprisings now in... what am I trying to say? It's not Syria. Is it Syria? Where they're having all the women, all right, that are being murdered for not wearing their hijab properly. Uprisings with that, all right? It's fighting against that devil energy, fighting against controlling energy, fighting against toxic energy. This case is the prime example of that, all right? I was just on the Facebook thread, and a lot of these things are rumors or whatever. Somebody posted a purported screenshot. I cannot verify the authenticity of this message, as it's just, a random, it looks like a DM in a Facebook DM. It said it's apparently purported to be from the grandmother, saying that the little boy is dead and that he's at the dump, all right? Thunder is happening. Let me start by giving you a brief rundown of this case, and it is complicated, all right? So if you are a true crime person, get your popcorn. It's not something to celebrate. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I have to be the voice here. There's a need for people to bridge the gap here. I see a lot of pitchforks being waved at this girl, and yes, I do feel like she killed her son. I am not going to demonize her. I'm not going to judge her. That is not my place. I have been trained to understand why people do heinous things. When I hear about things like this that are, horrible and unthinkable and unfathomable, my first reaction is not, oh my God, they're a monster. My first reaction is, who made them that way? Who created that monster? How did they get to the point where they would do something so unforgivable, as killing a baby, I want to know why that happens, because I don't want it to happen again. All right. So let's start with the backstory. The backstory here is complicated. All right. We have several people involved. We have the mother named Leilani. We have the grandmother, Leilani's mother, Billy Joe. We have a stepfather. All right. I'm not going to really name him because he's not super relevant in this case, and I don't know much about him. We also have Leilani's two brothers, one named Quinton and one named Paul. Paul was currently living in the house, all right? There's one house here. Everyone's living together. Grandmother Billy Joe and her husband, who is Leilani's stepfather. Leilani, Billy Joe's daughter. Paul, Billy Joe's son, I believe from different fathers. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. And then Leilani's three children. All right. She had the 20-month-old, who is the issue at this case that is missing. I feel very strongly he's deceased, and I feel like he's been deceased since Tuesday night of last week. And then she also has a child who's a little bit older than Quinton, who is missing. And she has a brand new baby that is only a few months old with her live-in boyfriend, who is also in the house. Okay. So we've got grandma, step-grandpa, mom, boyfriend, mom's brother, and then three minor children, all under the age of 4, okay? There's a long history with this family, and I'm not pointing fingers and I am not judging them. It's hard to break generational trauma. It is hard to, stop addiction. It is hard, to get out of a hole. What I can tell you factually, based on court records, like I said, I am a licensed attorney. I pulled court records for, several people in the family. I also looked up just a general address search for the grandmother, all right, who is, the mother of the girl who is suspected to have done something to her baby. What I see, all right, and what I feel intuitively, there is a long history of moving, not being settled, being transient, especially during the years that Leilani, the mother, and her siblings were young. There's also been previous interactions with DFCS with the grandmother Billy Joe and her own children. I did find a order in Chatham County saying that her son Paul, who is currently living in the house where the FBI are currently searching the woods for this baby, he's living in the house with her. At one point, the state deemed him necessary to have another legal guardian that was not his mother. This shows me, all right, as an attorney, in my legal opinion, a lot of it's sealed because he was a minor. This shows that she was deemed unfit, or that she was not able to retain custody in a way that satisfied the state of Georgia. The mother, Billy Joe, she did try to, defend against that. She did stick up for her kids. I don't want to say that these people did not love their children. I think that they do, all right? I think the problem here is they don't love themselves enough to get well for their children. And that's the issue we need to talk about. Anyways, so we've got this one brother living in the house that has already, had previous interactions with DFCS, but grandmother was proven to be unfit in the recent past. I didn't dig far enough to find out whether or not that had happened with Leilani or anything like that. There are allegations on Facebook from people who claim to know the family saying that, Billy Joe, the grandmother, had her children taken away at a young age as well. Not shocking, all right? You're a product of your environment. She probably had parents that weren't the greatest either. That's the conversation we need to be having, not waving our pitchforks at these people and calling them monsters. That does nothing to prevent this from happening again. That does nothing to solve this problem. That does nothing to keep future children from... Did you see that lightning? They're going to find that baby, or they're going to find something tonight. I'm telling you, tomorrow they're going to make an announcement. They are going to name her. I feel like they're going to name her as a suspect. They're going to say that they believe he's deceased. I've had a very strong feeling since day one that he was thrown away. Anyways, back to my story. I'm sorry I keep getting off track. There's just so much with this case that I need to address. I should have made notes, but time is of the essence because I wanted to get this out before the police come out with stuff. So we know that grandma, who had already lost custody of at least one of her kids in the past, and it wasn't that far back either. It was like when he was a teenager, and he's not that old. Leilani is 22. The brother's right around the same age, I want to say. There's a transient history. There's no solid roots anywhere. There's a lot of moving around. There's a lot of uncertainty. Kids need stability. Kids need to be in an environment where they can, feel safe, not moved around and not, carted around. So that right there is already not setting them up for success. There's allegations of drug use, all right? I can verify that Leilani definitely was, in trouble for drugs before. She does have criminal warrants or criminal charges out of other states, all right, that I did find. Also, I feel it's relevant to note that Billy Joe's other son is currently serving a murder charge conviction. He committed murder when he was 17 years old. He lured somebody into the woods with 2 other boys, shot that kid, robbed him, and he's now serving a very lengthy sentence for that. So allegedly now, or suspectedly, that this woman has produced 2 of her 3, or I think she has 4 children. I think there's an older daughter as well. I don't know anything about her, so I'm not even going to go there. 2 of the 3 children that I know about now have, been linked to murder. This is a problem, all right? This is what we need to talk about. At some point, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but in the recent past year, all right, Leilani lost custody of her 2 older boys, Quinton and his brother. I'm not going to name the other children by name because they are minors. I'm only naming Quinton because he is in the news and it is out there on every major news agency. Leilani lost custody of these kids. I don't know for what I didn't pull that case record. I do know that it is true. I do know I can verify that the grandmother, Billy Joe, was the legal custodian. I did find DFACS worksheets and a child support case that had just been filed against Leilani to recover child support, given that the children were technically a ward of the state, with temporary custody being granted to the grandmother. My issue here, all right, is why are they all in the house together, okay? I don't have an issue with them all being in the house together as long as there is a responsible person there who will always make sure that the children are not left alone in the custody of somebody who was already deemed to be unfit. What happened the night that all of this went down with this little boy, all right? Here's the crux of the story. Week ago, all right, Wednesday morning at about 9:30ish, 9:30, 9:40 a.m., 911 gets a call that Quinton is missing. More lightning. He wasn't missing, all right? I feel it in my bones. Can't prove that. That's not based on fact. That's what I feel. Between 9:30, 9:40 a.m., something like that, the mother, Leilani, called 911 and reported her son missing, all right? They will not release the 911 call. Freedom of Information Act was, brought up. It was submitted to the court. It was denied under the fact that this is an active, ongoing investigation. There's something very telling about that 911 call, and I would, really like to hear it. The call to 911 came in 9:30, 9:40 in the morning. Prior to that, all right, the last known sighting of Quinton alive was 6 a.m. by Daniel, Leilani's boyfriend, who is the father of her youngest baby. Daniel and Leilani have not lost custody of their youngest baby. The 2, Quinton and the older boy, are not Daniel's children, all right? He is not their biological father. All 3 of her children, have different fathers, okay? I also want to note that both of the biological fathers of the older boys have been completely cleared by law enforcement. They have verifiable alibis during the time that between when the kid was last seen alive by the babysitter and um, when he was reported missing. All right. So don't even approach that. There's people with all these wild conspiracy theories about, oh, she lost her child support case and I don't know. There's no, first of all, the child support documents in this case are standard. When a child is taken into de facto custody, the state of Georgia wants to be reimbursed for having to babysit that child, is literally what it is, okay? I've been a custody attorney. I've been a divorce attorney. I've handled lots of family law. The case for child support was brought by the state, all right? It was not brought by a father, mother, anybody. It was not something that she lost. I keep hearing people on the internet saying she lost her child support case. You can't, there's no winning or losing a child support case. You have to pay child support if it's your biological child. There is no winning or losing, okay? It's just a matter of how much you're going to have to pay. And her amount was dumb low, all right? It was like $150 a month or something. That is not motive to kill your child, okay? And not only that, but the order was for both children, both of her boys, not just for the one that is missing and, I believe deceased. That's not a motive, all right? So people need to stop discussing that. They also need to stop, having these crazy theories about revenge on the, baby dad's part about having to pay child support. They're all paying like damn near nothing, all right? This is not breaking anybody, this child support. The child support order was entered into the court as a good order, all right, filed into the court as an order on the same day that Quinton went missing. The hearing, though, for all of that happened several weeks before. Leilani didn't even bother to show up to the hearing, to contest it, or to do anything to, submit proof of income or anything like that. There was no response from her, all right, to the petition. So I would like everyone to stop, from a lawyer's perspective, that was a very low amount of child support, and that is not a reason to off a baby. And not only that, the state of Georgia is like not vicious about pursuing child support. You have to be behind, and I know this from a factual standpoint, all right, because my ex-husband is almost a full year behind, does not make payments for like months at a time, and they do nothing except send letters. That's not a reason to kill your baby. So that is not a motive, okay? There's also a pending, like a lot of eviction proceedings going on within the family. I did a whole lot of landlord-tenant law, so I'm very well versed in dispossessory law. I found 2 separate filings, all right? I want to clear up some misconceptions that people have been having on the internet regarding this case and the evictions and things like that, okay? First of all, I found a case where Billy Joe tried to evict her son, Paul, the one that's, living there again now, right around when he was 18 years old. He was supposed to be paying money. She also accused him of theft and stealing. He also has, prior criminal involvement for theft, petty theft, things like that. I do believe it was dismissed. So there was already like beef there. Billy Joe had also just recently filed a dispossessory, which is an eviction proceeding, against Leilani and Daniel, the boyfriend, okay? She wanted them out of the house. She said that there was, they were ruining her property, that they were, destroying things, that they were not, it was not healthy for anybody. She wanted them gone. Again, all right, the paper was served via tack and mail, which means, they served the paper by sticking it on the front door of the premises where all of these people are living. I've been a process server. I know how it goes. You go, you stick it to the door, and you leave. You don't wait to see if anyone gets it. So whether or not she received the notice, I can't verify. She was not served personally. It's not required in a eviction proceeding to serve somebody personally. I do believe she was aware of the eviction. If you look at her Facebook account, she was, looking for properties to rent right around the same time that all these filings were going on. But again, there was no response filed by her. So basically, Billy Joe is entitled to go get what's called a writ of possession right now, which would legally dispossess or take away possession of the right to live in that property from Leilani and her boyfriend. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet going around saying that the Billy Joe is trying to put out all three kids, all right, and Leilani and Daniel. That is not true. I looked at the filing. There are two defendants on that filing. It is Leilani and Daniel. It doesn't even list all other occupants or anything like that, like you would standard do in an eviction proceeding. It does not list any of the minors. No, it doesn't list anybody. There's also no back rent being claimed. The only thing she was claiming money-wise was court costs. So I don't believe that that is a motive either, to kill one child, all right, and not the other one. Do I feel like it added tension? Yes, I do. Do I feel like it was possibly what drove this mother to get into the emotional state that she was in? Possibly, all right. I do feel like it all was a contributing factor. So those are things that happened before the disappearance happened. What we know about the disappearance, basically, Daniel claims to see Quinton in his pack and play at 6 a.m. At 9:40-ish, all right, mom reports him missing to 911. Prior to Daniel seeing the baby in his pack and play at 6 a.m., the babysitter, all right, that lives down the street, I believe her name is Diana. I don't want to drag her because she's getting dragged too. My God, like, leave that woman alone. She has got her receipts and her facts and paper. She can back it up. That woman had cameras everywhere. She saved all of her past texts. I don't believe she has anything to do with this. I don't believe she should even be considered a suspect in the least. I feel like she's been more than cooperative and more than open, and I feel like she was stepping in for those children who were clearly and visibly suffering from abuse and neglect. All right, the whole dang neighborhood saw what was going on with this, and it's like nobody really did anything except her. She took the babies in, and she would get them diapers, and she watched them for like a dumb low amount of money, like $10 a day or something stupid. I don't even remember what she said, but it was like really low. The babysitter, she has evidence. All right, this is factual evidence. This is not speculation. There is a text message at around 5:30 in the morning from, I believe it was Daniel or Leilani. That's still up for debate who texted that, okay? She claims it came from Daniel. I don't know if, I have a feeling that Daniel, I don't know if she used his phone. I don't know. I'm not getting a big energy of the boyfriend, like, being responsible for this, all right? I almost feel like she pulled one over on him. Some part of me feels that way. I don't get that vibe from him. I don't know why. I also want to go on record saying that I don't feel like she did this intentionally. So yeah, 5:30 a.m., babysitter gets a text saying, you don't need to come today, all right? The boys are with, Leilani. She's got the boys. You don't need to get them. This is a bizarre text, all right? Because this woman had been watching these babies for months, and she watched them every day, regardless of whether or not the Leilani was working, all right? Because Leilani was not supposed to be in custody of these children by herself. There had to be a legal adult supervising that was not her, all right? Which is why I think the grandmother was doing her best to try to arrange babysitters to be there, because I don't think anyone really trusted her to look after the children. And I feel like there, was a court order in place where she was not allowed to be alone, and be the primary custodian without supervision, is what I'm guessing, all right? The babysitter immediately thought that that was strange, okay? I also think that it is strange. If you're gonna, that's super early in the morning. It was apparently 30 minutes before Quinn was last seen alive. Something tells me that, I feel like this baby was gone before that, all right? I don't, there's a lot of unanswered questions, all right? I have a very strong feeling, though, that something happened to him overnight. That's why the text at 5:30 came in, because something had already gone down. I feel like there was some kind of an accident. I don't know if this baby got into drugs, or if, she blacked out and was high and shook him too hard or hit him too hard, all right? Because there are previous accounts from neighbors, and clearly there was a DFACS case where the children were removed from her custody of abuse and neglect. It's verified, all right? She's already had him taken away. There was some kind of neglect, all right? It was proven in a court. Not only that, the babysitter has pictures, apparently, and, lots of relevant text messages and complaints that she was making to grandma, saying, the babies are dirty, and they got bruises on them, and they don't have diapers, and they don't have food, they don't have milk. These kids weren't being taken care of the way they should have been. I do feel like the babysitter should have called defects. I feel like she should have reported it to the state. If you see something like that going on, report it, all right? Don't even hesitate. You can do it anonymously. It's not snitching. These are children. They can't speak for themselves. You have to speak for them. If you see something, say something. Rule number 1. Apparently, a lot of the neighbors also had seen the kids like running around the front of the house, being scared that he would get hit by a car. Again, neighbors, we need to have a discussion. If you see a baby running around in the street, all right, you do something about it. You don't just watch the baby running around in the street. You either take the baby back to the house and have discussion with the parents, or you call the cops. You make a record of it. You make a report. Again, kids can't speak for themselves. Kids are little people. They need us to speak up for them. They need a village, all right? My anger is directed at many places right now, and I'm trying to, tame it because I don't want to point fingers and I don't want to spread more angry energy because that's what's going on right now. Everyone is like screaming at this girl like, she's a monster, string her up, blah. I'm like, let's not talk about the fact that she was raised in a house with a, mother who raised another murderer and just moved around every, couple months as a child or at least every year, all right? Or her dad was completely absent. We're not ready to have that conversation about why she, feels so emotionally unstable and why she has abandonment issues and why she can't process her feelings, why she doesn't feel secure, why she needs to use drugs. Abandonment issues from your parents, neglect from your parents. People are not born monsters, all right? Not usually, all right? They're usually made that way. Product of your environment. The reason I'm having this whole discussion, though, is because I don't want to see this keep happening. Everyone does this. They get so, wrapped up in the sensationalist, vibe that these cases have. It's intriguing and it's horrible and we want justice and we do, all right, but justice is not demonizing this girl and just pointing all the blame at her, all right? And I want to be very clear, I'm not excusing what she did. I believe she is guilty. They have not proven that yet. This is my personal opinion. I believe she is guilty. I believe she did what she did. And I believe that she will face consequences for that. The conversation we need to have, though, is not how awful this girl is. It's how she got that way and how we stop that from happening. You have to break the generational trauma. You have to get these things early. Those babies should never have been allowed to go back in that house. There should have been, all right, there was clearly a small bit of research on the, part of the department, realizing that, grandma had previous DFCS interactions, realizing that there was probably, a good chance that the mom would be living, in the house with these kids, which would require closer monitoring. There needed to be strict provisions in place saying, clearly stating that she should not be left alone with them. There's ball dropped all around. The neighbors should have been reporting things. There should have been a record of these things. DFACS should have been more involved in this. I don't feel like they should have ever gone to the custody of where they were in the first place. If I was the social worker there, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I also do have training as a court-appointed special advocate for children. I was a CASA. That was my first legal job. I was a guardian ad litem for abused and neglected children. I would go around. I would interview the neighbors. I would interview the teachers. I would interview the school. I would interview, psychologists. Anyone involved in that kid's life, I would speak to. I would get their side of the story, and then I would make an unbiased opinion in the best interest of the child, not giving a shit about what mom thought, what dad thought, what the state thought, what anyone thought. Only about what was best for that child. I am a staunch child advocate, which is why I'm making this video in the first place. We all need to be child advocates. We all need to pay attention. We all need to report these things and make records of it when it happens, all right? We don't need to just sit here and, watch the shit show, watch people fail, watch kids, running around dirty in the street. Look at yourself, all right? If you're gonna point fingers at that girl, you're letting the same thing happen. Yes, they're not your children, so call the cops if you don't want to deal with it. Me personally, I have on more than one occasion when I worked as a process server, serving eviction papers in, Southwest Atlanta, not in the greatest neighborhoods, I came across children that were unsupervised a lot, all right? Did I just stare at it and be like, oh, shame on their mom? Nah, I would pick those babies up and take them to the leasing office and be like, I don't know whose baby this is, but they're wandering around the breezeway in a dirty ass diaper. And, do you know who they belong to? If not, we need to call DFACS. You don't just leave that stuff there to fester. You don't just wait for, something bad to happen. You don't sit there and watch, people fail and watch children, at risk and do nothing. I do commend the babysitter for doing her best to try to help, all right? I do feel like she should have reported things. I do. I get her reason for not doing that, all right? But in hindsight, everything they say is 2020. I feel like the next time she will do that. So I do feel like she has her heart in the right place. The part that hurts me the most about this case, okay? I don't feel like these people were, overtly abusive. For like all intents and purposes, the vibe that I picked up on them, they really do love their kids, all right? They really do, want to be good parents, but they have no idea what that looks like. I feel like there's been a long line of failure of, good examples in parenting, and that's the root of all of this. And if you're not going to have it in your own home, you need to have it in your community. I don't want to start shit and yell at the community, because you don't have an obligation to do anything. It's not your circus, not your monkeys, all right? There is no legal obligation, all right? But there is a moral one, I feel like. These things can be stopped. These things can be, intervened, especially when they're that young. You can still save them at that age, all right? When they get to be, in their teens, 20s, it's too ingrained in them. So anyways, this case, all right, the second that I heard about it on the news, because it popped up immediately, because like I said, it's 10 minutes from my house, I immediately knew they weren't going to find that kid. They weren't going to find him alive, at least. I also, I live, like I said, in the area, and that morning that he was, reported missing, that was trash day, all right? That's conveniently when the garbage was coming around. I feel like something happened to this boy in the middle of the night, and that they frantically, I don't want to, I can't hone in on whether or not the boyfriend had something to do with this. I do feel like he knows what happened. I don't know the extent to how he was involved or when he found out about what happened. I don't feel like they're honing in on him as a suspect, though. There's allegations that he was up in Atlanta, but again, there was a picture. I can't verify that. The picture could have been taken anytime. I don't trust anything. So basically, they start this search that morning. There's a lot of issues with me if your baby goes missing. Because there was a text also, I forgot to tell you that. After they text the babysitter at 5:30, and then 6 a.m. rolls around, and apparently Daniel sees the baby in the pack and play and goes to work. And then a couple hours later, I want to say around close to 9ish, I want to say timeline wise, that's when the babysitter gets another text asking, has she seen Quinton? She's like, no, I haven't seen Quinton. Y'all told me not to come babysit today. And she immediately gets concerned, and she goes straight to the house and asks, do you need help finding him? And Daniel and Leilani say no, and they turn her away. That is suspect right there to me. If my 2-year-old wandered out the door in my neighborhood, I would be banging on every neighbor's door in the near vicinity to come canvass the area and help me until the police got there. I also would not wait hours to contact police. There's a big gap between when apparently the child went missing, which still we don't know when he actually went missing. I feel like he was missing since the night before. There's mixed reports on whether or not the mother left the house that morning to go do something. I still feel like that baby is close to the house. I don't feel like he went far unless he was put into the trash can. I feel like it was chaotic. I feel like I definitely feel accident. I feel high emotions. I feel cloudy judgment. I feel, oh my God, what have I done? All right. I don't feel intent. I feel loss of control. I do feel remorse, all right? And I feel extreme guilt. I would bet, all right, that this girl is now having suicidal thoughts. I don't really have a lot more to say on it, all right? As far as the investigation goes, I mean, they sent the dogs. They couldn't find a scent. They couldn't find any traces of his body. They canvassed the area. They've had 40 plus FBI agents, running all around doing things. Recently, they've gone back to the house. They just now drained the swimming pool, all right? They hung up black tarps all around the windows. And, I studied forensics. That means they're spraying luminol and they're looking for blood evidence or, some kind of evidence of biological nature. The next day, today, they went back to the house again with dogs. Apparently now they're out in the woods behind the house looking. There's just this massive thunderstorm pouring in. I just have this very ominous feeling. There's going to be something big coming out about this, either tomorrow or Friday. I feel it. This is not going to be a cold case. They are going to prosecute. Whether or not they locate his remains, I do not know. The area that they're in is like right near an Air Force base and a lot of government property. There's also lots of water bodies nearby, rivers, lakes, streams, heavily wooded areas. I'm a little confused. I feel like I don't know if it's the actual body that they are searching for right now in the woods. I feel like it's more physical evidence of some sort. There's a lot of unanswered questions. What I feel like is not clear mostly is definitely the boyfriend's involvement. I don't even want to speculate on it. Part of me feels like she, I want to talk, like, I deep dived, all right? I got a Scorpio moon. I'm an investigator. I went into her Facebook, all right? First of all, she's got, like, Leilani, the mother, has, like, 5 different Facebook accounts or something crazy. Unstable is, like, putting it lightly. And I don't want to say she was crazy, but there's just a lot of emotional immaturity there. She's only 22 years old. The human brain doesn't even fully form until you're 25. This girl had a very hard time with her self-worth and being able to disconnect her value from being valued or wanted by somebody else. Whenever I see somebody, all right, who does nothing but post inspirational memes or memes about, passive-aggressive memes talking about, oh, if he loved you, he wouldn't do this, or like, letting a good woman go, that's your mistake. It's just like nonstop memes talking about how much of a, prize she is and, how she's been so done wrong and all these, you'll regret hurting me. It's like, it's screaming for attention, all right, when people do that. When people constantly have to remind the public through daily meme posting, and I'm talking, there's days where she would put 20, 30 posts, all things that clearly were like directed to a boyfriend or a significant other. Like, just have the conversation. Like, that's emotional immaturity. That's not understanding how to process your feelings. It's being like so tied up to how other people interact with you. It's like needing validation through a romantic partner. That's the dad issue, with dad being gone. That's like the first main thing that we need to focus on, all right, with, stopping this, all right, is having both parents present and accountable, all right? Holding parents accountable for being shithead parents and actually, doing something to stop it from happening again. We need to start teaching about mental health in, early childhood education and how to deal with emotions and how to deal with abandonment and how to deal with the feelings of not being wanted and how that manifests into, crazy obsessive behavior, all right? Her fixations, like, she had lost custody of her kids and, like, all she's talking about are these boyfriends. And if you look past, her Facebook history for the past, 3 or 4 years, I dug all the way back. several different men, all right, had babies by 3 different men within, 3 or 4 years. That right there is like, why were we not intervening on the first one? Why were we not getting her services on the first one? Why were we not, why was she allowed to procreate 2 more times after that? There's no accountability for any of the, fathers involved here. Like, I've heard nothing about these men having any kind of role in their kid's life. I don't know if they were active or not. I can't speak to that, but I couldn't find any evidence of it. One was ordered to pay child support. The others, I didn't find any record of that. We point the fingers at these young moms and we demonize them and rave our, fingers in their face. But like, no one wants to talk about the grandma or, her father or the kids' dads that all contributed to this happening. They're all responsible, they're all complicit in this. Everybody knew what was going on here. Nobody did anything. They perpetuated it, all right? I do feel like mom was an enabler. If you look at the relationship online, at least between the mother, like Leilani and her mom, there's a lot of lovey-dovey, all right? Posting, mom, my mom is my rock and my mom is my best friend. While at the same time, mom's, filing for eviction against you to throw her out of your house. It's like, there's a lot of toxic energy going on with that. This girl had a deep desire, all right, to be unconditionally loved. And I feel like her pursuit of that went way awry. Because the place where you find your unconditional love is your children. Your children will love you like no matter what. Even if you aren't like a piece of garbage, kids will still love you. She couldn't see that, all right? She was looking for her validation and her, self-esteem in a man. And we need to teach our girls not to do that. We need to teach them, how to respect themselves and respect their babies and not, fall into patterns of abuse and harm and drug use and these, high emotions. This breed of like teenagers and early 20-somethings coming up basically grew up, all right, with that Pluto and Capricorn energy. They grew up with that devil energy influence. That's why you see, all right, I moved from Atlanta. I was, previously living in the villages of Eastlake, which is a formal housing project, all right? It used to be Eastlake Meadows, one of the most notorious housing projects in Georgia. That is still lingering there, all right? It is still mixed income housing. It is part Section 8 and part market, and there are still people from those days still living in there. I was there for a couple of years and several murders, all right, in our parking lot. Lots of gun violence, lots of drug use, lots of robbery, lots of kids running around unattended. The first thing that all of the 18-year-olds in my neighborhood would do when they were, seniors in high school, they would immediately go buy assault rifles with no hassle. When we turned 18, we wanted to go buy cigarettes or we wanted to go to a club, all right? We didn't want to go buy an assault rifle. We are Pluto and Libra. My generation, it's a very different energy. It's a very different vibe. These kids were brought up with this influence of this devil energy, needing to be tough, needing to, be the baddest bitch, all right? Needing to go hard, all right? Needing to, I don't want to say sex, drugs, and rock and roll because it's that, but with violence. There's all these, you see it constantly. Girls like tearing other girls down, men or boys, not men, boys, objectifying these girls even younger, and none of these kids having respect for themselves or their soul, all right? We're at the tail end of this generation, and I feel like there's just been a death rattle with the Pluto and Capricorn energy because, beginning of next year, it transits into Aquarius. This sign of, humanitarianism and the collective and doing what's right for society, not ego-driven, devil energy, that Capricorn brings. These kids are like, they come across as so belligerent and egotistical and full of themselves when it's really just insecurity. It's lack of self-esteem, and it's lack of having coping mechanisms, all right? It's the inability to, temper your anger and to act in a rational way. I just keep like having these strong urges, all right, to have this conversation. And I don't know that I'm being completely coherent with this. It's super late. I didn't plan this out. It's completely off the cuff. But I've recently been like watching the Nicholas Cruz trial when they're about to sentence this kid to, death for, this shooting in Florida, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. This kid, that's another example of, same stitch, all right? There were red flags everywhere about this kid. Tons of them. Tons. Mom let him buy guns, all right? The parents, that were raising these kids in Pluto and Capricorn grew up during this time. They fed these kids, all right? They spoiled them. They enabled them. They, used drugs with their kids, some of them. They, dressed them up sexy. That's when you saw, like, the rise of the, baby prostitute pageants, all right? Where these little girls are, like, dressed up like Jean Bonnet and stuff like that. You see, them giving them access to social media at early ages, teaching them, like, always having a camera in their face, like, always feeling like they're being watched, always feeling like they need to perform, always feeling like they need to be me, star of the show. There's a whole generation now of, like, little monsters running around that can't check their egos, that can't, see things, with empathy. It's almost like they don't have empathy unless it's for themselves. They know how to feel sorry for themselves. They know how to, play the victim. They know how to, blame others and point fingers for why things are the way they are. They're very, aware of trauma and abuse and throwing around terms like narcissism and, bipolar and things like that. There's a lack of impulse control, all right? That's all brought about by the, addictive nature of internet, TV, things that these kids grew up with that, our generation did not have. We can go read a book and chill and be cool. We can go take a walk outside and be fine, all right? We can have people not like us and like not, lose our mind and go shoot up a school. We can take rejection with a grain of salt and just kind of be like, brush it off. They can't. Capricorn energy is all about ego, and when it's untamed and unchecked and, like it would be in an adolescent, it's dangerous. It's the bad part of that devil energy. It's not the drive and the will to succeed and to, be powerful and to go after your desires. It's the, inherent nature to like self-destruct and to destroy. And we have a whole generation of these kids. It would be kids born, right around, I would say between 2000 and probably 2000 and like 2015. All right. That's the biggest danger, I feel like, for that generation. Because they were just kids when it like shifted over and like they grew up with this energy. We need to bring it back to center, all right? We need to change the thought pattern. We need to nip it in the bud. We need to be accountable, all right? We need to, I look at these cases like Nicholas Cruz and like this baby Quinton and things like that, and they could have been prevented. I don't know what the answer is. As a lawyer, like, part of me wants to prosecute parents. Nicholas Cruz's mother knew that he had a long-standing history of mental health problems. She knew that he was different. She knew that he, was subjected to fetal alcohol syndrome and drug abuse when he was a baby, which warps your brain. She knew that there was a inherent risk of him doing something and not being, able to regulate his emotions. And she bought him guns. She encouraged it. She allowed it in her house. Is this what we need to do? All right. I'm trying to have a discussion about this. I don't want to tell y'all what to do. I legitimately want to find a solution. I'm so damn tired of these big Facebook, witch hunts. The whole reason that I got started on making this post is they posted that alleged screenshot saying that, the grandmother was saying the baby's dead and he's in the dumpster. And all these people immediately start being like, I hope they, they do what, she gets. They wanted physical harm done to this girl. They wanted, basically her strung up and, set on fire in front of the town. It felt like Salem witch hunt energy. None of that shit's productive, all right? It's not productive. And not only that, but I'm in the Bible Belt. These people all claim to be Christian. I sat there and I got the screenshots, I saved them because this one chick, because I posted, several days prior, I had posted that I felt like he was in the dumpster and that he was dead that day, unfortunately. So I reposted that, and then somebody commented on it and said something about, I don't know. I got into I didn't get into an argument because I don't argue on the internet. All right. I will not take that bait when people are trying to make me angry. I've worked through that. But I'm a trained litigator. I graduated Order of the Barrister, which means I was the most best yeller and arguer and litigator, in my class. And I will go toe to toe with you. I don't get into an argument unless I intend on winning it, or unless I know I can back up what I'm saying with factual evidence, not sensationalist opinion. The one lady was basically, I had posted how I felt like this was coming, and that I felt like, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think that she set out and planned to kill her son. I do feel like drugs had something to do with it, or at least neglect, or at least being distracted. I don't feel like this was an intentional, I'm going to kill my baby today type of situation. And I stated that, all right? And I was saying that I hope that she could, get the help that she, needs, and that she, deserves whatever's coming to her. But it's not for me to judge. I'm not judge, jury, executioner. I am just a human who is trying to make sure that other humans are not terrible. So this lady starts in on me. How can you defend her after what she did? There's no excuse for killing a baby. Okay, correct. It is never okay to kill a baby. Duh. We are all on the same page with that. Okay? What is not correct here is only pointing the finger at her. Yes, she's an adult. Technically. Like I said, she's not even 25 yet. Her brain hasn't even fully developed fully. Yes, she should be held accountable for her actions, and she will be. She will be prosecuted. Is it helpful, though, to sit there and, cry devil and, persecute this girl for an obviously heinous crime? And it was. There is no good excuse for why she did what she did. But feeding ugly devil energy, such as killing a baby and being a drug addict and, being a terrible parent, with more hateful energy that is not empathetic, that is not, at all able to look outside of the heinous act, can't see the sin for the sinner, all right? And the trend with this, all right, the most people that I see doing this are the ones that have, Jesus is my savior, and all these crazy crosses and stuff on their pages, and claiming to be these Christians, and I know the Lord's got my back. And I was like, no, your Lord does not have your back if you are a vengeful, hateful person who's wanting, this girl's toenails to get pulled out for what she did in the heat of a moment or in a drug-induced rage. You don't want to have the conversation about her mother or her father or how she got that way or the state of Georgia or why this kid wasn't taken or any of these neighbors that didn't call the police when they saw these kids wandering around. We just want to, we need an immediate sense, to put our rage and our disdain on. So we're just going to do that. Meanwhile, all the, reasons why this happened are just left not spoken about. Nobody gives a shit. I didn't see those people, talking shit about any of these kids' fathers. I didn't see these kids talking shit about, Leilani's father. None of that. She's a witch. Burn her. All right? It's very, very Salem up in here. It's a failure on many parts. And we're never going to stop this if we keep meeting it with that kind of energy. I even tried to explain to this woman, I was like, I'm not defending her. And I'm not excusing what she did. I said, I believe she's guilty and I believe she should be punished for what she did. What I don't believe is that I should not show her empathy as a human being. Everyone deserves empathy. I don't care how terrible you are. Because if we just meet darkness with more darkness, guess what you get? More darkness. Keep a distance, all right? Don't get yourself involved with, serial killers and crazy people. But there's a need to understand why these people do what they do and to be empathetic to it and to understand it at its root, to eradicate it. It's a weed like growing in our culture, in our population that needs to be uprooted. Yelling at the weed isn't going to uproot it. Pointing a finger and waving your pitchfork at the weed is not going to uproot it out of your garden. It's not. I hate seeing ugly energy. I hate seeing that devil energy. And that's, people want things to be very black and white, and it's never that. Especially in cases like these, all right? It's not as black and white as it seems. Is she a bad person for doing that? Yes, she is. Are you a bad person for, screaming at her and calling her names and hoping that she gets tortured to death? How are you any better than her to, wish harm upon another person just because they did something bad? So you feel like, eye for an eye, I guess. You know what they say about that, though? The whole world goes blind. And we're almost to that point. There's this sensationalist, we've been desensitized, is what I'm trying to say, to violence and to murder and things like that. Our children have. They don't even blink, all right, when they see that shit on TV. Their video games have gotten so realistic. This is why these kids can go be good school shooters, because they play Call of Duty all day and they know how to, go in and case a room and clear it out. When are we going to start as a community fixing this instead of just rabble? I'm tired of the unproductive discussion. I'm tired of the thoughts and prayers. I'm tired of the, throw her under the jail. I want to know how to stop it. All right. I just wanted to get this up before they make an announcement because I feel like it's coming. I feel like they're going to, say that he passed away sometime Tuesday night or the early morning hours of Wednesday. I do feel like the mother is responsible. I still am not sure if I don't know. I feel like it has to deal with the mother. I do. I also don't feel like it was intentional, and I want to go on record saying that. The alleged text says that, she doesn't have any recollection of it. And of course, everyone immediately wants to say, oh, isn't that convenient? You just don't remember this heinous crime. If you've ever been the victim of trauma, of rape, of abuse, of a car accident, of PTSD, being in the war, traumatic events, all right, that fuck your brain up, all right? Your body has defense mechanisms to make sure that you don't die from trauma. Killing your child is a traumatic event. Someone either has to be a complete sociopath, which I don't see that with her. She was very much a liar and a manipulator. She was very much attention seeking. Do I think she's a complete sociopath? No. I don't get that vibe from her. Definitely had, issues though, mentally. But it's like, I lost my train of thought. I just have a bad feeling. I want to wrap this up. Like, there's not a lot to say. This kid was not abducted. I feel it in my bones. He wasn't taken. I also don't think he wandered off. And if he did, I feel like they knew when he wandered off and they failed to call the police. I also have no idea what was going on with her brother, who was apparently in the house at the same time. I'm also wondering if there's going to be any criminal charges filed against the grandmother for leaving the baby in her custody. I have a lot of questions, all right, about social services here and why it wasn't properly used. You know what? I really don't have questions about that, but I already know there's not enough of them and they're understaffed and underpaid. And their hands are tied a lot of times by the law and by, you know, the boundaries and the reach that they have. That needs to also be addressed. What I really want to do, like the whole having this conversation, is not to be sensationalist and get some views off of talking about this missing kid, which a bunch of people are doing, all right? All right? With their speculation and their theories. I'm very transparent about the fact that I'm an empath. I do it for a living, all right? I read tarot for a living. I'm also a forensic trained behavioral person. I have requisite skills and knowledge to make these assessments. These YouTube armchair people do not, okay? They don't have a doctorate degree. They've not practiced law. They have not studied psychology. They have not been a child advocate. They don't understand the psychology behind abuse and neglect and what happens here. They want views, they want ratings, they want sensationalist shit. They want the juicy details. They want to, you know, show how awful this girl was and how, you know, much of a demon she was, because that's what, you know, gets clicks. That gets clickbait. That's not what I want to do here, all right? I want to figure out how we stop this. I'm tired of seeing these kids. I'm tired of seeing these Casey Anthonys. I'm tired of seeing these babies disappear. I'm tired of seeing these, you know, teenage boys who are so goddamn angry that their only, you know, respite is to go murder, you know, a room full of their classmates. Like, when did we turn into this? Why are we like this now? Yelling at these kids and like screaming about them and calling them the devil. It's like, that's what the devil wants. That's what that devil energy wants. They don't want you to see what's going on behind the curtain. They want you to just focus on the thing in front of your face, the instant gratification. It's the same thing that's happening with our little ones. If you are letting your child be on an iPad all day long, you are fucking up. Their brains are not meant for that. They're not meant. The reason these kids are having such a problem regulating their feelings, their rage, their ability to check themselves is because they don't have self-regulation, because of these YouTube, TikTok generations where we go back and forth between 10-second video clips, and if we don't like it, we immediately swipe and go to something else. It's the same effect that, you know, drugs give to a brain. It's when you get high, you get an instant stimulation. It sets off all the good brain receptors, pleasure receptors. These kids literally have to detox from these iPads. Like, watch some of these videos. It's changing their brain pattern. It is making them lose their empathy. It is making them lose their soul. It is making them, you know, devolve as humans with regards to conflict resolution and patience. And we need those things desperately right now. We need, you know, good conflict resolution. We need patience. We need understanding, and we need empathy, and we're allowing it to die off. And I feel like it's so underhanded. The devil is slick. The devil is not always overt. He's in the details, or he's in the little things. These kids have it a lot harder than we did growing up. They do. Everything's in their face. Everything is at their fingertips. They don't have to work for information. They don't have to learn on their own accord. They can ask a robot in the sky what they want to know and it'll answer them back. They don't have the ability to wait or to do things the hard way or the long way. That's something that we need to get back to, all right? That's a discussion we need to have. It's the same thing with these people screaming, you know, their little witch hunt, like wanting to just, you know, stick a pitchfork in this girl. Y'all are devolving. You guys are losing empathy. Every time I look at people like this, I don't think immediately, oh my God, they're a monster. I immediately think, who made them that monster? We don't want to talk about that because a lot of the times, we're complicit in it as a community. We don't acknowledge red flags. We do let these kids, when something's off, all right? Certain kids give you bad vibes. Certain people give you bad vibes. We can't keep ignoring that. We can't just keep brushing that to the side and pretending, hope it goes away. I'm just tired. I'm tired of seeing this on the news, and I'm tired of, seeing these babies' faces up there and knowing damn well that they're never going to be found. I'm tired of seeing these kids so angry. I'm tired of these, 16 and 17-year-olds committing mass murders, shooting each other, stealing, robbing, having no aspiration other than to be, the baddest. Ugh. Having a good soul is like not in vogue anymore. It's not, they're not about that. And I need to get back to that. I'm afraid, all right? I really am. I got 2 little boys, and I don't want them growing up in that environment, all right? Mine are little enough to hopefully they're not going to have this big effect. They're going to grow up their formative years, mostly in, the age of Aquarius, hopefully. But I already did start seeing it with my 7-year-old, all right? Being on the internet too much, not having the ability to chill, all right? Needing immediately to jump to the next thing if his brain wasn't stimulated. It's like a junkie trying to get a fix. It's very much the same. It's the same energy I would get, working with addicts and seeing the way that they would respond to getting their stimulus taken away. The brain works the same way. It's just a different stimulant. So anyways, y'all can look at the case on your own. I highly suggest that you do not feed into the rumors or anything like that and stick to facts. I do feel like there will be more information given tomorrow. I've been feeling it coming. I keep feeling like by Scorpio season, there will be charges filed, formal charges, I want to say, during Scorpio season. Because everything comes to light during Scorpio season. All right? Please leave comments and ideas and helpful discussion about how we can, as a community and as a collective, pull ourselves back to center and find a way to come up with solutions to where we don't see this happen anymore. I don't want to feed this monster. I want to pull it out of my garden and throw it in the trash. But this one hurt, all right? And it cut me deep. And I'm sorry if I was rambling or not being super coherent, but like I said, it's super late. And this is a very triggering issue for me, having 2 young boys. And seeing what I have seen. Seeing kids, shot. Seeing kids, like, very real, all right? It's not a foreign concept anymore. Like, I know teenagers who have lost friends to gun violence. They shouldn't be doing that. That is not something I ever had to worry about as a teenager. And we grew up in the 80s, and it was wild. But not that kind of wild. It was fun wild. It needs to stop, all right? I'm scared for our babies, and y'all know already I'm Cancer. I got my high Empress energy there. I'm tired. What's the deal, guys? Let me know what you think in the comments, please. And please share this, even though it's probably a rambling mess, because this conversation needs to start. We need to stop avoiding the elephant in the room. Why are we, there's a lot of things that I feel like need to be addressed, starting with parenting, all right? Starting with consequences for parents who refuse to parent their children. Consequences for fathers who create children and just completely disappear and have no kind of, any kind of blame pointed at them ever because they're just not there. Also, we need to have a serious talk about guns. I will say right now, I'm going on record, I am pro-gun, all right? My family, especially my uncle, people like that, guns are fine in the hands of responsible owners. I've stated multiple times that children's brains don't stop, growing and developing until 25. But we're allowing 18-year-olds to buy assault rifles, no questions asked. They can't even buy cigarettes. They made legislation to change the cigarette buying age to 21. They don't even talk about guns. Like, there's no reason for an 18-year-old to have an assault rifle. There's none. Period. There's no reason for anyone to really have one. Unless you're in the military, all right? I don't think, I'm not even going to touch that issue about the outright ban or whatever. But, like, people under 25, 21, at least 21. My God. Let them own a rifle. Let them own a shotgun, all right? A hunting rifle, something like that. Where the worst they can do is go in and get a couple shots off, not go in and just mow people down indiscriminately. What is wrong with us? Like, who thinks it's okay to put a mass killing device in the hands of an 18-year-old boy? Any of y'all watching my channel have known an 18-year-old boy, or some of you have been an 18-year-old boy. I was a highly emotional teenager. I should not have allowed to have anything in my possession like that. Like, it's like giving a monkey, a machete and setting him loose. Like, why? They're not mature enough to even regulate their feelings, and you're going to give them a weapon that can kill, dozens of people within a few seconds. Does anyone think that that's a good idea? I am not calling for a ban on guns. I'm calling for common fucking sense. And I'm calling for common sense with, children and mothers and people who keep procreating and having involvements with custody and things like that. You shouldn't be allowed to keep having babies when you just had babies taken away. She's lost custody of 2 kids, this girl. And she just pops another one out and gets to retain custody of that baby as well. Where was DFACS there, all right? Was she drug tested? Was she, interviewed? Was there a home study done? Did they know if this baby had stable housing? We need a better system. We need to care about these kids like they're our kids. Because we don't give a shit about them until they are our kids. Until it's our kid that gets shot. Or until it's our kid that gets knocked up and abandoned. Or it's our kid that accidentally overdoses. We want to talk shit about all these kids and how horrible they are and how horrible their parents are. But, like, wait till it's your turn. See where that gets you. Being judgmental and unempathetic and unforgiving. All you're doing is breeding more monsters. This is not the way, young Padawan. All right, guys, I gotta get off here. I got some readings that I gotta do. Our signs are like freaking out, waiting for their reading. But yeah, that's what I got. Sorry for the downer thing, but it needs to be said. This whole thing is bothering me a lot. So I really hope to hear your comments, constructive ones. All right. I'm not here to start shit. I don't want to have any discussion about one that's positive and, leads to a solution. We're not going to go back and forth about, how awful this person is. I don't want to hear anything except constructive ways to make sure that this doesn't happen and that we do not raise any more people who are capable of doing shit like that. Okay? That's it. That's what I got to say. All right? Love y'all. Talk to you next time. Bye.